I told you. It's a hot show, bro.
It is.
Hot show. Live from New York. It's a show that still believes in Mac Jones.
No, it doesn't.
A little bit.
No, it doesn't.
A little bit.
That is not what you were just
Just
saying.
not seeing the field.
You're popping F-bombs off the air.
Unbelievable.
I like that one. Does Josh Allen deserve criticism?
Listen, I know what everyone's expecting. They're expecting me to come out here and mock Josh Allen.
I wonder why.
Talk about the interceptions. They're expecting me
the roller coasters.
to, maybe mock the Bills. They think I'm going to revel in this, in their season being over. They think I'm going to.
Whoa, you kind of buried that take in there.
Well, their season is obviously over, and it's over for a lot of reasons. The math, the lack of faith, a lot of things. And we'll get into it. They expect me to drop banners, and that's not what I'm going to do to.
All right, what's the...
No, that's an old banner. No,
These
guys.
are old ones.
These are old banners. I said we're not doing that today. Yes, they were on the cover of Madden and they're going to miss the playoffs. And yes, once again, they're the September champs, and unfortunately, that's the only championship they're going to win. But I am not here because I found a common ground with Bills Mafia last night. We were both equally galled by the decision-making of their head coach at the end of that game. So let me take you guys, if I may, quickly on a journey. Brew, what is the fork-in-the-road moment, one could argue, and people have argued on this show, for the Bills franchise in this era? What is the game? What is the moment?
If people is you, then the 13 seconds that Patrick Mahomes marched down the field and
13
beat them
seconds.
in the playoffs.
That's right.
Tie game. The Chiefs were down 3, but 13 seconds, need a field goal, 2 timeouts. Well, last night, Sean McDermott was in a situation where the Eagles are rushing towards a 59-yard field goal. He has 2 timeouts. There's 26 seconds remaining. He decides, I think foolishly, to use one of his timeouts to ice the kicker, even though we've never even known if that actually is a thing statistically. But regardless, it gave Jake Elliott time.
And
Go
quickly,
ahead.
usually they get iced as they're kind of starting to kick.
No.
He did it before the play even started.
And I would argue it's a timeout they needed because they didn't get the ball with 20 seconds. They should have 2 timeouts, but they still had 1. 1 timeout, 20 seconds. In conditions, we just saw a kicker damn near hit a 60-yarder. Your entire franchise is built around the talent of your quarterback, who is having an awesome game. I agree with Darius Slay on this game specifically. The one pick, you deal with it. He had 4 touchdowns playing great. And Sean McDermott said, don't trust you. Sean McDermott said, I cannot confidently say you're not going to cost us the game, so I'm not going to give you a chance to get 20 yards, call timeout, have 14 seconds left. Throw it out of bounds, throw whatever it is. And in that moment, I said to myself, okay, he gave up on his team in that spot. He didn't trust their biggest advantage, which is supposed to be Josh Allen, which is why a team that started the year, Brew, hanging a certain type of banner in their practice facility is going to end the year hanging a very different banner in their practice facility.
Oh, wow.
Now, Sean McDermott's not going to be the head coach there because they are unequivocally missing the playoffs. There is no way out of this, and he gave up. He gave up on the team and taking that knee at the end of regulation flatly. Flatly.
Look. I can't disagree with a lot of what Nick said. You guys know I've been saying this about Sean McDermott ever since they gave him the contract extension.
That's true.
All right, through 2027. I'm not saying they should have fired him before this season. No, let him coach, but let's see what he does.
Yep.
He should definitely be on the hot seat. And it's going to be hard for him to make the playoffs. So if they miss it, he does need to go because, look, this is a team that appears to be mentally weak. And I believe you take on the personality of your coach. And we can go back to the Stephon Diggs situation. We know he mishandled that.
And he was bubbling again this week, if you saw it the different times.
Yeah, after one good game and stuff. And so he's a good coach. He made them a perennial contender. And I think he'll get another job somewhere else at some point and deserves another job somewhere else. But I don't think he's the coach to get this team over the hump. They've had too many situations where they've been great and right there at the door and couldn't get it done. And I think that emotionally this team is spent. So I agree with you, and I do think they should have tried to get the field goal. 26 seconds left, or 20 seconds,
20
whatever
seconds
it was.
when they got the ball.
20 seconds left. Give it a try. You're an explosive team, not only with your quarterback, but with receivers. You need, what, 30, 35 yards?
We did see him at the going to halftime in Denver when they were trying to get some points. Yeah. And what did Josh Allen do?
But that was a game.
Was interception, boom, quick field goal.
Right.
But isn't that the kind of type of thing sometimes I hear when people, I think inaccurately, but they criticize the analytics models where they say it doesn't take into account the flow of the game. In that first half against Denver, it wasn't we can win the game right here, and Josh wasn't playing that well. In this spot, it was to win the game and to play for overtime when Sean McDermott, his fault or otherwise, is winless in his career as a head coach in overtime is to me foolish. And Brew, you seem to have the door open for them making the playoffs. Vegas gives them a 17% chance. The smart people at DVOA, Aaron Schatz and company, give them a 14% chance. I'm here to tell you it's a 0% chance. Because here's the reason people are giving them a chance is because they're like, well, if they win 5 straight. Guys, they're not a good enough team to win 5 straight. If you win 6 of 12, it's going to be December and you win every other game, you're not, as your schedule all of a sudden turns hardest, going to all of a sudden turn it on. Right now, if I were to tell you, in order to make the playoffs, the Green Bay Packers have to win all the rest of their games. Would you believe in it? The Rams, the Saints, the Falcons.
But
you know what they all have in common?
Those teams aren't close to. I mean, in fairness, they don't have the quarterback that this team has. But they don't have the recent history that this team has.
I understand that, but what they do have is 6 losses, like this team. They are looking up in the standings at Denver and the Colts. At some point, we have to kind of remove ourselves from our priors and say, if through 12 weeks, without the league's toughest gauntlet of a schedule, you have alternated wins and losses. If all year long you have won 1 game outside of your home field, and it was against Washington, you're not all of a sudden going to rip off 5 in a row, which is what they'd have to do.
When they've won 13 games a few times, and last year they ripped off 7 in a row at the end of the year, and then they look like a totally different team in the playoffs. So I agree with you that with their schedule, I just don't. I mean, they got Kansas City, they got Miami again, they got Dallas.
It's Kansas City, then Dallas, the Chargers. They have 1 gimme with the Patriots, and then Miami.
Yeah, I mean, if they lose to the Chiefs, they could be so emotionally spent and their morale so broken that they could lose 3 or 4 games after that.
What I think the Billsiest outcome is, and it's obviously not what I'm rooting for, is that they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Cowboys, and then they lose to the Chargers, and that's how it ends for them. Because the other thing people just need to understand on the math part of it, when you have 5 conference losses, they're not going to have any of these tiebreakers, and so they are going to have to go 11-6 to get there, and they're not going to go 11-6.
Just to put a button on McDermott, here's a quote, my favorite quote from James Palmer, which I thought was an indictment. Overtime, Jalen kind of waltzed into the end zone. Here's what Jordan Palmer had. Jordan Mailata said on the game-winning touchdown that he couldn't believe the Bills gave them that look. That play is a staple within their offense, and when they saw the safety move, they all knew Jalen would score. So as much as we want to talk about,
good thing they don't have a defensive coach.
That's the problem. Like, this is an easy play.
He made a business decision at the goal line too.
You think so?
Well, I mean, he didn't want any parts.
You know what? If you're ever allowed to make a business decision, it would be like, oh, okay, well, if I make this tackle, what happens? They do the stupid brotherly shove and we lose that way. Whatever. The game's over.
He saw a broken collarbone.
All right. Meanwhile, the Eagles are now 10-1. Nobody's more locked in. Let's look at the best record through 11 games after a Super Bowl loss. There's only 4 teams. 72 Dolphins then won the Super Bowl. 75 Vikings lost the divisional round. 91 Bills went back to the Super Bowl, lost odds. And then this year's Eagles. So, Brew, did the Eagles prove that they're Super Bowl favorites?
They have to be the Super Bowl favorites. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, what they've done the last 3 weeks, they beat Dallas, Kansas City, and Buffalo.
I know, but barely on all of them.
Right. Okay. No, I hear you. Look, they've only got 2 double-digit wins all season, and they haven't won a game by more than 14 points. So I hear you on that. And there's 2 reasons I don't think you can hold that against them. One is because last year they showed us that they can win in the postseason. If they were like, remember the Steelers a few years ago were 11-0, and nobody really believed in them because the games were close. Even Minnesota last year, they hadn't had that type of playoff success where we believed. This team's got to the Super Bowl and came close to winning. So that's why at least I believe, even though these games are close, I'd love a blowout here or there, but these games are close. They've shown that they have the pedigree and the heart and the character to win in the playoffs. So that's number one. And then I just said it, what they've done this season, the teams they've beaten, none of the other contenders can claim this type of list of victims. Throw in Miami, too, in the last 5 weeks in addition to those other 3 games. And Jalen Hurts, look, I know his stats aren't the gaudiest, but he just makes whatever play needs to be made, whether it's running or passing. This play to Zacchaeus, I mean, this was phenomenal, and you got to just believe, and this is why his teammates and coaches believe in him so much. That was just a great pass and scramble.
Looked like the play that won the Alabama game.
Yeah.
Except that was 4th and goal from the 30.
Yes.
And so, listen, I know this is probably going to surprise some people. It's hard to say it because they talk so much trash. I like this Eagles team a lot, man. They have the best, with respect to Dermontti Dawson and Kevin Wildes, the best center I've ever seen.
He's awesome.
They have a GM who's like super sharp and forward thinking and cutting edge.
You're a Sirianni guy.
That is the kink in the armor of me actually really liking this team, is I find the coach incredibly irritating. But while I do not believe wins are a quarterback stat, wins definitively are a coach stat. In fact, they're the only coach stat, is your win-loss record. And his win-loss record says he's an elite coach. The way he manages the game says he's an elite coach. I think he needs to manage his emotions a little bit better, but I'm trying to be nice to the Eagles right now.
And they weren't a great team when he got there.
Correct. And I didn't even get to the part about them that I like the most, which is their quarterback, who carries himself with such real confidence that it absolutely permeates his team. Here's the other thing that's happened the last 3 weeks. Against Dallas, certainly against Kansas City, and certainly last night. They were thoroughly outplayed for massive stretches of all of those games, particularly the Chiefs game and last night. Dallas was kind of more of a back-and-forth affair. And I truly think the entire time they thought, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Jalen, and we'll get into this when we talk MVP, and it's one of the weird parts of the MVP discussion is Jalen has played 2 of the worst halves of his not his career, but the last 2 years, in the first half of each of the last 2 weeks. He has a total of 350 passing yards combined the last 2 weeks. But then he makes these plays at the end of the game. And so, listen, the reason that I think I'm shocked, first of all, that the Niners are favorites in Philly this coming week, I think that is very insulting.
That's the power of a blowout over Dallas. I mean, really. That's the only reason you would put them ahead of the Eagles.
Well, I'll show you another full screen.
Sure. Let's see.
Just behind the scenes, we have 2 Eagles fans on the staff. Cab, who is like over the moon happy, and Dusty, who is like depressed.
Texting the group chat late night, asking us to FaceTime.
So here's the problem. 20th in points allowed, 29th in opposing pass yard, touchdown 30th.
Yep.
So here's the only teams that give up more yards than them through the air, Brew. The Chargers, who are not good. The Bucks, who are not good. The Commanders, who are not good.
That's it.
And then it's the Eagles.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to stand on the desk and say, as much as we believe in Jalen, it says, you know what, this is a recipe for a winning team.
But go
up against Patrick Mahomes.
Well,
they beat Patrick Mahomes. I know, that's the weird part.
Again, I'm more talking about them getting to the Super Bowl than winning it. Here's what they have going for them. Because they're 10-1, barring a collapse, the playoffs in the NFC are going to go through the link. And I do not think Jared Goff can go there and play well. I do not think you might disagree. I do not think Brock Purdy can go there and play well. Dak can, but I know Dak can play well in Philadelphia.
Right.
Like, I know he can. But Dallas getting to that spot is maybe going to be the tricky part. You look at the rest of the NFC, like, this is where the home field really matters. They have an outdoor stadium. It's going to be the postseason.
Yep.
Their quarterback's not going to be shook up.
Yeah.
And so that's why when I was arguing with Brew about the Lions last week, part of it was I thought they had a real shot of being the 1 seed. They give a game away, Philly wins one, you didn't think they were going to. All of a sudden that changes.
I know, but if Gabe Davis catches that ball, we'll be like, you know what happened?
Well,
there are 500 total yards.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. It's called bending but not breaking.
Well, that's a lot of bend.
They break a little
there might
bit.
Be a little
breaking
luck.
Not enough.
There might be a little luck, but at some point it doesn't matter. If you're the 1 seed, you play one less playoff game and they have to come to your building.
Look, the only team you favor ahead of them would be Kansas City, and that would be largely going off the history.
Let's talk about it.
The history.
Finally, the Chiefs points.
You could have some foresight like I did.
You did.
Could. No, you didn't. You just panic at each and every turn.
I didn't.
You're like a scared little
love or a shadow.
and you're like, oh, is that a shadow? Like, what are you doing? Like, instead of having confidence. So what's the question?
Should you think? No. Is your/the faith in the Chiefs restored? I know your faith never wavered.
Let me tell a story.
For
here we go. Viewers. Once upon a time, there was the greatest player we'd ever seen was going through a slump. Mm-hmm. And the league had figured him out. And things were going wrong. In the midst of that slump, they played the Green Bay Packers. He did not play well in that game. Mm-mm. It was another bad game. He had a stretch, 6 touchdowns, 6 picks, 75 rating. Right. Chiefs were 4-4. It looked gross. And then the final play of that game was this. And to most,
I remember this.
To the layman, this was a nothing. It was okay. Yeah, he rolled out and threw the ball. And I said, guys,
this is true.
That this will be known. The next morning, we were in boxes during a pandemic. I said, that will be the pass heard around the world. That will be the moment that Patrick Mahomes snaps out of his slump. And you guys laughed and catcalled, and Wildes had a leaning bookcase behind him, and he was mocking me. And then the rest of the year, Patrick Mahomes, we can show it to you, did that. From that moment, from the pass heard around the world to this. And then yesterday, we're early second quarter. The Chiefs haven't scored a point in 7 of their last 13 quarters. And Josh Jacobs mush faces Mike Edwards, streaks to the end zone, and the Chiefs are Vegas underdogs. And that same person who had the foresight 2 years prior put up a tweet prediction. That Josh Jacobs run and being down 14-0 to the Raiders is the moment the Chiefs offense breaks out of this funk. Because for the first time all year, they knew the defense might not have it, and they knew they had to have the game. And what did they do from that moment forward? Well, that's what Patrick did. And Kelsey stepped up, and Andy stepped up with a second-half game plan, and rookie receiver Jerry Rice had his first 100-yard game of his.
Wait.
Oh, you're saying okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rashid. That was a mistake by me. I'm sorry, rookie receiver Rashid Rice. I just see one and I think of the other.
Rice.
Sorry about that, Kevin Wildes. And all of a sudden, the Chiefs are sitting there tied with the other divisional leaders. And here's one other thing that the media won't tell you. Where I got something wrong, Brew. I said all year long the Chiefs were practicing for their later scheduled gauntlet. Turns out they already went through the gauntlet. Would you believe the Chiefs have played up to this point the second toughest schedule in the NFL? Nobody thinks that. 1 game shy of the toughest. Before the Chargers lost last night was the toughest. Chargers lost, so it changed. Those are the toughest schedules up to this point. So yeah, I think with Mahomes feeling good, nice, softer opponents coming up, I think anybody that lost any faith, it should be restored. What up, Brew?
Well, look, it does pain me to agree with Nick to some degree.
Thank you, Brew.
But look, watching that game initially, I was like, it's worse than I thought.
That's right.
Because they were getting beat up early.
Up front, yeah.
And the way they came back down 14-0, it was impressive. And I don't want to overstate this because obviously they've been in much bigger games than this. But it looked like they looked in the mirror collectively and were like, it's now or never.
Yeah.
Like, we really got to turn this around. And Rasheed, I like him. He's not Jerry Rice, but I like him. I think they used him better yesterday. They got in Pacheco, they got some screen passes.
Being down receivers might have helped.
Rice is great after the catch.
Yep.
He's one of the top, I think he's top 5 in the league yards after the catch. So they played a smart game yesterday once they got rolling. They look good. They definitely look good yesterday.
Go
Yes.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I have a whole thing, but you go.
No, you go. Do your whole thing.
I wrote down on my paper. Nick might be right. But it's a quote in the Kansas City Star from Jesse Newell, who said he asked Justin Watson, we've been saving that one a little bit. You see the other teams around the league do it, and it was just our week to pull it out. So he had something in the chamber. No, this wasn't even that tricky of a play. It was just like a quick route where he runs across, and then next thing you know, it's a touchdown. It wasn't even a masterfully like, wow, where'd you draw that one up? It's just so basic. Like, we still haven't opened up the playbook.
You know how
and you've been saying that, so you're right.
I've been saying that. And the other thing that when I knew that we were going to be okay was before the game even started, when I'm watching Sunday football, and I'm watching a new State Farm commercial, and I said, oh my goodness, is Patrick Mahomes dropping banners, his own banners on State Farm commercials? And he is. That is. It's, by the way,
a banner of a banner.
That's him dropping a banner. If you guys haven't seen the commercial, he's even holding the exact same little remote that I have. I'm not going to say Patrick and I did or didn't talk about it. Those are private conversations. But it's no problem for my friends at State Farm. They can use the banner bit. It's no problem at all.
Shout out to State Farm. That's free.
Shout out to State Farm.
How many banners is that?
We're at 4 banners.
We're
running out of
Banner industry. It's just
we're doing a
banner
Cowboys
day.
grade next.
Coming up next, Professor Broussard gives out his grade.
Oh, there it is.
We're running 3 commercials. Before the commercial break, we're showing commercials. Ad sales will be fired up about that one.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.